One single hair. That's all it took to catch a killer who walked free for 25 years. In 1991, a young mother was brutally murdered in her own home. Her killer left almost no evidence behind, no fingerprints, no witnesses, no DNA. Police had nothing. The case went cold. Her family suffered in silence for decades, wondering if justice would ever come. Then in 2016, a detective reopened the file and found something everyone had missed: one microscopic hair fiber trapped in the victim's hand. 25 years later, that single strand of hair would speak louder than any confession. This is how science finally caught a murderer. Before we dive deeper into this incredible case, make sure you're subscribed to Anteph Life Tales. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a story about justice finally being served. Drop a comment below telling me what you think about cold cases being solved decades later. Your support keeps these important stories alive. Now, let's get back to 1991 and discover how one microscopic piece of evidence changed everything after 25 years of silence. The truth was hiding in plain sight all along. Angela Samota was 20 years old in 1991, a college student at Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas. She was beautiful, intelligent, and full of dreams for her future. Angela was studying pre-med, hoping to become a doctor. She was dedicated to her studies, worked part-time, and had close friends who loved her dearly. Angela lived in an off-campus apartment where she felt safe and independent. On October 12, 1991, she spent the evening studying with a friend. That night would be her last. Angela was kind, trusting, and had no enemies. She couldn't have imagined the horror that was about to unfold in her own bedroom. Her life was just beginning, and someone was about to violently end it. October 12, 1991, started as an ordinary evening for Angela Samota. She had been studying with her friend Russell Buchanan at her apartment. Around midnight, Russell left Angela's apartment to go home. Angela locked the door behind him and prepared for bed. She had no idea someone was watching, waiting. Sometime between midnight and morning, an intruder entered Angela's apartment. How he got in remained unclear, possibly through an unlocked window or door. What happened next was brutal and horrifying. Angela was sexually assaulted and stabbed multiple times in her own bedroom. She fought desperately for her life. The killer was violent, merciless, and thorough. By morning, Angela Samota was dead at just 20 years old, murdered in her own bed. On the morning of October 13, 1991, Angela's friends became worried when she didn't show up for class. This was completely unlike her. Angela was responsible and never missed school without calling. Her friends went to her apartment to check on her. They knocked repeatedly. No answer. Growing increasingly concerned, they contacted the apartment manager, who opened the door. What they found inside was a scene of absolute horror. Angela lay murdered in her bedroom. Blood was everywhere. It was immediately clear she had been violently attacked. Her friends were traumatized. Police were called immediately. Dallas Police Department detectives arrived to process what was obviously a brutal homicide. The investigation began, but the killer had vanished without leaving obvious clues. Who could have done this? Dallas police detectives worked intensively on Angela Samota's murder throughout late 1991 and into 1992. They interviewed everyone who knew Angela: friends, classmates, co-workers, neighbors. They investigated her friend Russell Buchanan thoroughly, since he was the last known person to see her alive. Russell cooperated fully and was eventually cleared. Detectives collected evidence from the crime scene, including blood samples, fingerprints, and fibers. They found seminal fluid indicating sexual assault. However, this was 1991. DNA testing was still relatively new and expensive. The technology wasn't as advanced as it would later become. Police developed several suspects but couldn't definitively link anyone to the crime. Without solid physical evidence connecting a specific person, the case stalled. Months passed with no arrests. Angela's family was devastated and desperate for answers. As the 1990s progressed, Angela Samota's case grew colder. Her murder remained unsolved, joining thousands of other cold cases in police archives. Angela's family, especially her mother Sheila Wysocki, refused to give up hope. Sheila became obsessed with finding her daughter's killer. She researched the case constantly, contacted police regularly, and pushed investigators to keep working. But without new leads, there was little police could do. The evidence sat in storage. DNA technology was improving dramatically during this time, but Angela's case wasn't being actively worked. Different detectives came and went. Files were transferred between departments. Years turned into a decade, then longer. Angela's friends graduated, started careers, got married, had children, all things Angela would never experience. Somewhere out there, her killer was living his life, free and unpunished. Sheila Wysocki, Angela's mother, became a force of nature in pursuing justice for her murdered daughter. Unlike many cold case families who eventually accept they may never get answers, Sheila intensified her efforts as years passed. She learned everything about forensic science, DNA testing, and cold case investigation techniques. She contacted the Dallas Police Department constantly, sometimes weekly, asking for updates and pushing for the case to be reopened. Sheila hired private investigators with her own money. She created websites and social media pages dedicated to Angela's case. She contacted DNA experts and forensic genealogists, asking if new technology could help. Many people would have given up after 5, 10, or 15 years. Not Sheila. She was absolutely determined that her daughter's killer would be identified and punished, no matter how long it took. In 2008, 17 years after Angela's murder, Dallas police formed a dedicated cold case unit. Detective Linda Crum was assigned to review old unsolved homicides using modern forensic technology. She pulled Angela Samota's case file from storage. Reading through the investigation reports, Detective Crum saw that biological evidence had been carefully preserved since 1991. Semen samples from the crime scene had been stored properly all these years. Now, in 2008, DNA technology had advanced tremendously. The samples could be analyzed to create a detailed genetic profile of Angela's killer. Detective Crum sent the evidence to the lab. Scientists extracted DNA and generated a complete profile. They ran it through CODIS, the National Criminal DNA Database, hoping for a match. Initially, there was no hit. The killer either had no criminal record requiring DNA submission, or hadn't been arrested yet. But now they had his genetic fingerprint. The hunt was beginning again. In 2008, while running advanced DNA analysis on evidence from Angela Samota's 1991 murder, forensic scientists made a crucial discovery that had been overlooked for 17 years. When examining evidence collected from Angela's body and the crime scene, they found something microscopic but incredibly significant: a single hair fiber clutched in Angela's hand. Angela had fought her attacker desperately during the assault. In that struggle, she had grabbed at him, and a single hair had been pulled from his head and remained trapped in her clenched fist. This hair had been collected in 1991 but hadn't been thoroughly analyzed with advanced technology. Now, in 2008, scientists could extract DNA from the hair follicle. They processed it carefully and generated a genetic profile. This single hair provided the same DNA profile as the semen samples. Angela had literally held evidence of her killer's identity in her hand for 17 years, waiting for science to catch up. With a complete DNA profile from the single hair and other biological evidence, investigators ran the genetic data through every available database. For months, there were no matches. The killer wasn't in the system. Then in 2008, something changed. A man named Donald Andrew Best Jr. was arrested in another state for an unrelated sexual assault charge. As part of his arrest processing, his DNA was collected and uploaded to the National CODIS database. The system automatically searches for matches with unsolved crimes. Within days, the computer flagged a hit. Donald Bess's DNA matched the DNA from Angela Samota's 1991 murder scene. The match was perfect, statistically conclusive. After 17 years, Angela's killer finally had a name. Detective Crum immediately began investigating Donald Bess. Where was he in 1991? Did he know Angela? How did he access her apartment? The answers were disturbing. Donald Andrew Bess Jr. was a violent predator with a criminal history. Born in 1965, he would have been 26 years old when Angela was murdered in 1991. Investigators discovered that Bess lived in the Dallas area in 1991, not far from SMU campus where Angela attended school. He had access to the area and knew the neighborhoods. Bess had a history of violence against women, though he had managed to avoid serious prison time before Angela's murder. After killing Angela in 1991, Bess apparently left Texas. He moved to different states, living under the radar, working various jobs. He continued his violent behavior, eventually leading to his 2008 arrest for sexual assault. That arrest, and the mandatory DNA collection, was his downfall. 17 years after murdering Angela Samota, Donald Bess's DNA finally caught up with him. He was arrested and charged with capital murder. Justice was finally coming. Donald Bess Jr. went to trial in 2010 for the 1991 murder of Angela Samota, 19 years after the crime. The prosecution's case was built on that single hair and the DNA evidence it provided. Forensic experts testified about how the hair was found clutched in Angela's hand, how DNA was extracted from the follicle, and how it matched Bess's DNA profile with absolute certainty. The statistical probability was overwhelming, 1 in quadrillions. The defense had no credible response to the DNA evidence. They couldn't explain why Bess's DNA and hair were at the crime scene. They couldn't provide an alibi for October 12, 1991. The jury heard testimony about Angela's life, her dreams cut short, her mother's 19-year fight for justice. After deliberation, the verdict came, guilty of capital murder. Donald Bess showed no remorse. Angela's family finally heard the word they'd waited nearly 2 decades to hear, guilty. After being convicted of Angela Samota's murder, Donald Bess Jr. faced sentencing. In Texas, capital murder carries 2 possible sentences: life in prison without parole, or death. The prosecution sought the death penalty, arguing that Bess's crime was especially heinous, a brutal sexual assault and murder of an innocent college student. They presented evidence of his violence and lack of remorse. The defense argued for life in prison instead. The same jury that convicted Bess now had to decide his fate. After considering all evidence and testimony, they reached their decision: death penalty. Donald Bess Jr. was sentenced to death for the 1991 murder of Angela Samota. He was sent to death row in Texas, where he remains today. Angela's mother Sheila finally had justice after 19 years of relentless pursuit. One single hair had solved a murder and sent a killer to death row. Angela Samota's case demonstrates the critical importance of proper evidence collection and preservation. In 1991, Dallas police investigators carefully documented and stored every piece of physical evidence from the crime scene, including that single microscopic hair found in Angela's hand. They couldn't analyze it fully with 1991 technology, but they preserved it properly, maintaining chain of custody for future analysis. 17 years later, that preserved evidence became the key to solving the case. This case teaches law enforcement agencies worldwide a crucial lesson: preserve everything. DNA technology advances rapidly. Evidence that seems insignificant today might be the breakthrough tomorrow. That single hair, carefully stored in an evidence locker for nearly 2 decades, eventually spoke louder than any witness. It provided irrefutable proof of Donald Bess's guilt. Evidence has a long memory, and justice has infinite patience. Sheila Wysocki, Angela's mother, became an inspiration to cold case families everywhere. Her 19-year crusade to find her daughter's killer demonstrated that persistence matters. Sheila never accepted that Angela's murder would remain unsolved. She pushed investigators constantly, learned forensic science herself, hired private investigators, and advocated tirelessly for her daughter. When the case was finally solved in 2008 and Bess convicted in 2010, Sheila's determination had paid off. After the trial, Sheila continued her advocacy work. She founded organizations to help other cold case families, taught them how to navigate the criminal justice system, and advocated for better evidence preservation practices and more resources for cold case units. Sheila transformed her personal tragedy into a force for justice for others. She proved that families can make a difference, that cold cases can be solved, and that killers can still be caught decades later. Angela Samota was murdered on October 12, 1991. She was just 20 years old, a pre-med student with her whole life ahead of her. Donald Bess Jr. took all of that away in one night of brutal violence. For 19 years, he walked free while Angela's family suffered without answers. But Angela fought back even in her final moments. She grabbed her attacker, pulling a single hair from his head, clutching the evidence that would eventually convict him. That microscopic strand of hair, preserved carefully by investigators and analyzed with advanced DNA technology years later, became the voice Angela no longer had. In 2010, justice finally arrived. One single hair solved a 25-year-old murder. It proved that evidence never lies, science never forgets, and justice may be delayed but it will not be denied. Angela's legacy lives on, and her killer will pay for his crime. Subscribe for more true crime stories. Thanks for watching.